Hey everyone, and welcome to the Jack of All Trades podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Musso, and I have kind of a fun, entertaining episode for you today. But before you listen to this one, make sure that if you haven't, you go back and listen to last episode because I had a super exciting guest on the podcast, and guest episodes are always my favorite. So make sure that you've listened to that one and then come back and listen to this one. But anyways, today I thought it would be fun to share some of my stories from my days of being in the college dorms. I have some roommate stories, some neighbor stories, all kinds of things to share with you. Obviously, I'm not going to name drop anybody in this episode just out of privacy and respect for everyone. And no hate or disrespect towards anyone that I talk about in this episode. I got some stories. And while I'm sure that I don't have the most extreme stories out of everyone that's ever been in the college dorms and had crazy roommates, I still got some entertaining things to share with you. So come along with me, sit back and relax and prepare to be entertained. So let's start out with sophomore year because actually freshman year, I kind of missed out on a year of being in the dorms, which I'm not too mad about it, but based on how the rest of my experience went. But anyways, freshman year, I was at a community college that was a lot closer to home. And so I was just commuting. I was sleeping at home. I wasn't in the dorms. So sophomore year, I transferred to a university that was far enough from home that I was in the dorms. And I didn't know anybody at that college. So I just got a random assignment roommate. And I wasn't able to meet up with this roommate ahead of time. Like a lot of people kind of try and meet their roommate beforehand. I wasn't able to do that because she didn't have like a car or her license or something. We messaged like once on Instagram. That was it. So I didn't really know much about her, couldn't really tell. So I did get to move in before her, which was nice because already it was kind of a big adjustment for me moving into a college dorm away from home. Even though it was my sophomore year of college, it still kind of felt like my first year of really like going away to college. So luckily I was able to get settled in before she got there. But when she moved in, I was actually out of the room for something. And when I came back, I walked in the door. Well, the door was actually, I think, already a little bit open. I could tell she was there. I walk in, I could hardly open the door because there was so much stuff just like strewn everywhere. And she was standing kind of right in front of the door. And the first thing that hit me was the smell. And guys, smell is just like, ugh, some things you can handle, but when it's the smell, I don't know, that's just like kind of the worst sometimes. And it smelled like weed and cigarette smoke and body odor and just all unpleasant things. And I did not grow up in a family that smokes or anything, so I'm not like, and a lot of family friends that we have don't either, so I'm not used to that smell anyways. So it always is just like extra gross, I guess, when I have to be like in close quarters with it. And all of her like luggage smelled like that and she smelled like that, and I just immediately was like, oh no, this is not going to be good. Like anything else I could put up with, but like the smell, am I really going to have to do this for a full year? Like immediately I was like, this is not going to be good. Oh no, like what am I going to do? I kind of like panicked a little bit because I was like, I can make friends with someone new, like whatever, I'm fine with that. But if this is how it's going to go, like if she's one of those people that smells like weed and cigarette smoke, like absolutely not. Anyway, so yeah, I walk in and that was my first impression of her. We did, get to talking and learning about each other and routines and habits and whatever. And the thing is, she was not a horrible person. I mean, like we could get along, we could get along, we could talk and have conversations. It was fine, but she was not somebody that I ever desire to live with or even share a space with, and I discovered that very quickly. But anyways, let me just start out with giving you some context, right? So this roommate of mine, she was always on the phone or on FaceTime with somebody, always. And growing up, I just have one brother, so I always had my own room. I wasn't used to sharing a room with someone anyways, and I wasn't used to just constantly people around me being on the phone or on FaceTime or whatever. So for her to be always like that. I never had any peaceful, quiet time because she was always, always in the room. I swear, she was always in the room when I was, and she was always on the phone with someone or FaceTime. I mean, most of the time she would have AirPods in or something, but the thing is, it would get to where she would be on the phone or FaceTime or whatever, and so I wouldn't be paying much attention, but then she would like start trying to talk to me, but I wouldn't be paying attention, and maybe I would have headphones in too, because I was like, oh, she's just talking to whoever on her phone call. Like, she's not talking to me, but she actually was talking to me, or the other way around, where I would think that she was talking to me, but actually it was someone on the phone. Or we would literally be mid conversation and she would have like an AirPod in, but we would be mid conversation. Then someone would call her and then she starts talking to them. And I think she's still talking to me. And like, first of all, that was so awkward. But yeah, it was also just annoying. And her friends and her crowd were definitely not the crowd that I would ever want to hang out with. And I just didn't like always being in the background of all of these video calls or different things. And I have a crazy story about that coming up very soon. But yeah, so this roommate of mine, she was the type of girl that very often would come back either drunk or high or both. Sometimes she came back both at the same time. She would come back, it would be any hour of the day or night. She'd be, depending on the mood, sometimes she would just be kind of like glazed over, like very out of it. Other times she would be like dancing around the room and she'd be getting off balance and just be falling everywhere, and she'd be hitting the ground hard, and we had cement floors too. She'd just be falling everywhere. She would come back and she would have the munchies from being high, and this would be like 2 a.m. and she'd be reheating pizza or Burger King or something when I'm trying to go to sleep, and I don't really want to be hearing her over her in her bed crunching chips in the dark, or heating up food that smells like it's dinner time when it's literally 2 a.m. and I'm trying to go to sleep. Like, that's sending mixed signals to my body. It was just ridiculous. And there were so many times that it would just be so frustrating. I have the texts to prove it. I would be texting a few of the friends that I had started to make on campus at that point, like about how my roommate just came back and it was really bad. She was like so drunk or so high, or and it was like annoying because sometimes she would suddenly be really talkative and I'm trying to just chill out, do my own thing, maybe do homework, and she's just like got the drunk chatters or whatever. Like, I don't know. It was bad. And sometimes she was like not feeling good, or she was just, yeah, I don't know. I didn't grow up around people that were like getting drunk or high all the time. So I don't really know how to deal with people like that. I'm not used to it. I don't enjoy it at all. So it was not fun for me. And yeah, that was just, she would sometimes have friends over and they were like the same type of friends as her. And she would be telling me like all these stories. A lot of the stuff I really didn't want to know, but she would be telling me all these stories, there's a big celebration called Main Day over at a nearby college that's much bigger. And a lot of people go over to that and they do these crazy things and they get really drunk. And she was telling me the story about how they almost got, like, they could have got arrested because the amount of like drugs that they had in their car was more than the legal amount. But they didn't get searched, luckily. Like, they did get stopped by the police but not searched. So I was like, this is actually insane. Like, I don't know. And I remember one time she did not, I feel for her in this case because she did not have a good family life and like upbringing and everything. She was struggling with that, and like her grandmother wasn't well sometimes, and her grandmother she was really close with. And so like, I definitely feel for her. I know that she had like a lot going on personally that probably led her to be making some of these decisions, which was really unfortunate. But I guess, I don't know, I think her mom like wasn't really the best influence either. But one time she was on the phone with her mom and they were comparing body counts. Like, not not unaliving, but like, the other thing that you would have a body count for. So I was like, I really feel like this is a conversation I should not be hearing right now. I really don't think this is okay for me to be here. So it was just stuff like that all the time that I would hear. She also, this was the big thing at the time. She she was talking to this guy, And she told me like all the lore, all the stories about this guy. He was a juvenile delinquent. Quite literally. Like he actually went to juvie for, I forget what he did. I don't even remember if she actually fully told me. I think she did. I think it was like stealing, but then also like some other stuff. He was not a great guy, right? Also, he overdosed multiple times and she had to use Narcan on him. Like she was telling me all these stories about how she found him and all this stuff. And I was like, this is wild. This is crazy to me because she like had a thing with him. I mean, they weren't dating, I don't think, but they were romantically involved somehow, right? And but he was not a good influence. He was not a good guy. It was like really toxic too. Not a situation she should have been in, and I think she like recognized it, but at the same time she was really attached to him. I don't know. It was like one of those situations. But he was one of the ones that, especially the first half of the year, she would be on FaceTime with. And guys, this one time, the way she had her desk arranged compared to my desk, when she was sitting at her desk, she was facing away from me. Her back was to me, and I was like sideways to her, if that makes sense. So like if like the two desks were kind of perpendicular to each other. So when I was facing forward at my desk, I could look over to my right and I'd be looking at her back, which meant that if she was sitting at her desk doing homework and she was on FaceTime with somebody, guess who was in the background? Me. And guess who didn't want to be in the background with all her crazy friends that she was on FaceTime with? Me. I was just chilling and wanted to have my privacy. Well, one time she was on FaceTime with this juvenile delinquent guy, right? And they're talking, whatever. I'm just doing homework at my desk. I'm not really paying much attention. And then it goes quiet for a while. And I think after a while, I kind of noticed how quiet it was. But like, so I looked over to see if they were still on FaceTime. And dude, the instant regret that I experienced from looking over, I looked over and she was shaking her, you know, something, her something something on the top half. I don't know like what words I can say on here with. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna get demonetized because it's not like I'm making money from this, but still, I don't know the rules, so I'm just gonna say she was shaking her top half at the camera, and he was enjoying the show. And that's what I looked over and saw. And I immediately got up and went to sit on my bed where I wouldn't be in the background of this because I was like, oh, that's so awkward. I did not want to see that. Like, it's one thing if you want to do that by yourself when you have privacy, but when your roommate is in the room, like that's crazy. That I could never imagine a scenario where that would be me. Like I could never. With someone else in the room like that, that's actually insane. But yeah, this guy, he was going to come and visit sometimes. And this, especially this first semester that I was there at this college, like I was homesick and I didn't really know anyone and I didn't have lots of commitments yet on weekends. And so I went home pretty much every weekend. And sometimes she would have people over and, you know, she tried to be respectful of my space, but sometimes like some of my stuff I could tell was like a little bit moved. But this one time, this juvenile delinquent guy was going to be coming. And considering the fact that he has a reputation for stealing and a bunch of other things and was not a good influence, I was like really skeptical of this because I wasn't going to be there. And I talked with her like extensively about this. And because I had like hard drives and like other valuable things that I didn't want like messed with. I don't know. Like, I don't know this guy. And it's just like, I'm not going to be there. So she promised like, I'll never leave him in the room by himself. Like if I have to go to the bathroom, I'll make him stand outside, like all this stuff. So I don't remember if he actually ended up coming or not, but I just remember being so skeptical about that. And then I almost had a pregnant roommate that year. Almost did. This was, I feel like still in the first semester, maybe towards the end of it. I don't remember exactly when. She was like, I have been feeling nauseous in the mornings. I have been having these weird cravings for things I don't normally crave. I don't remember if she like missed her time of the month or not. I feel like she was like late or something. And she was like, I think I'm pregnant. Like and it would have been with this guy, this juvenile delinquent. Like he would have been the dad, I'm pretty sure. She was like, I think I'm pregnant. And like she still wanted to finish her degree. She was going to law school, I think, like, which is kind of ironic. But so props to her for wanting to still like try and finish the degree, but I was like, there is no way that I'm like, no disrespect to anyone that's pregnant, but if she was pregnant, given the type of person she was, I was like, there is no way that I'm sharing a room for the rest of this year with someone that is pregnant. Like, I don't want to deal with all of that stuff. Like, I absolutely not. Okay. Like, I'm so sorry, but, and so it turned out she wasn't pregnant. She like eventually got a test and it was, I don't know, false alarm, I guess. But yeah, I was like, whew, we really dodged a bullet there because that would have been crazy. And I was not about that. Not about that at all. She also, I don't think I mentioned this, but she vaped and she would do it like one of the very first things when she introduced herself to me, one of the very first things she said was like, just so you know, like I do smoke, like, do you? And I was like, no, I don't. And she was like, is it okay if I do it in the room? And I was like, no, like I would prefer not, like please don't. And so most of the time she would like go to the bathroom, but occasionally she would do it like under her covers, or she would do it and try and like blow it out the window. But I'm like, the whole room still smells like it. Like, and if they search our room for any reason, like I don't want to get in any sort of trouble because they think that I have any part in this. Like and there would be times when she'd be like, I'm 3 days clean. And then she'd go right back to it. So it was like, whatever. There was one time when I told you guys about Main Day, that big day at the other college where everyone would go crazy and get drunk and do a bunch of ridiculous things, climb the telephone poles and fight in the mud and whatever else they do. So my roommate came back from Main Day wearing a raccoon cap on her head because I guess Maine, like, yeah, if that makes sense to you, like if you're a Mainer. If not, that might not make sense to you. But yeah, she was wearing a raccoon cap. Look one up if you've never seen them. And she was really drunk, of course. And I was like, first of all, what are you wearing? She lost her phone. She did not have her phone. She didn't know where it was. She wanted to try and get in touch with like a friend or someone, but she didn't have her phone. She also didn't have her laptop. Her laptop was in, I guess, one of her friends' dorm rooms or something, and they like weren't there, or she didn't know. She couldn't like, so she didn't have a way to like contact anybody. I don't remember how that situation got resolved, but I was like, this is not about to become my problem. Like and that's the thing. Sometimes her problems would become my problems. And I was like, I don't want this happening again. Like, absolutely not. There was one time that I had to literally walk her to the lobby of the dorms to get picked up and brought to the hospital because she like thought she was having some issue. And I was like, again, yeah, I want you to be okay, like human to human, but I really don't want to deal with all your medical like stuff that you're inflicting upon yourself. There was one time that I wasn't there that apparently an ambulance came because she thought she was having a stroke, like she was having trouble like talking and stuff, and she wasn't having a stroke, but she thought she was, and so she left in an ambulance, which was kind of crazy. She also like she would go through these episodes of depression and stuff or she would be up all night and she would sleep like all day. On Sundays I would go to church in the morning, and sometimes I would like go to lunch with people from church or whatever. And so if I would get back and it'd be like 2 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, and it would still be just like a dark, smelly cave in the room, and she'd still be sleeping. And I'm like, at this point, I don't even want to try and be quiet and considerate of you. Like, I want to come back to my room and have sunshine and like just move about freely. And I never had the room to myself pretty much because she was literally always there unless she was out partying or in class. But I avoided the room at all costs because it was smelly. Her side of the room was so messy. She would have laundry strewn everywhere. Also like old food strewn everywhere, and just like, I don't know, she showered, but like there was still BO. So like, I don't know. It just always smelled so bad in there. And so we constantly had the window open, but I never wanted to like invite people to my room ever, because first of all, she was almost always there, but second of all, it just like it smelled so bad. It was so messy. Like it was not cozy. I didn't want people thinking that it was like at all because of me. Like I don't know, it was just like embarrassing. I avoided my room at all costs. I would do homework in other buildings even until late at night, and I would just any excuse to not be in my room. And if I was hanging out with anyone, it was their place, not mine, usually. So there there was also there was a time that I had to sleep on the floor of, so I had made a friend through pep band, and she also had a random assignment roommate, and she had just transferred as well, but we were starting to get to know each other. And there was this one time that I was coming back to my dorm room, and as I was going up the stairs, some of my roommate's friends were going down the stairs, and they were like, "Oh, are you going to the room?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they said, "Oh, just be careful because uh your insert roommate's name. She is like, she's like sick right now, and she's acting like a monster. Like she was raging, like throwing things around, like it's scary. Like just be careful." And I was like, "Oh, cool. That's really cool." And also I have like a phobia with people getting sick, like throwing up and stuff. I am not about that at all. So I was like, if she's sick, like I cannot stay in there. I can't. Not to mention the fact that she was actually bipolar, like officially diagnosed with that. And sometimes if she like ran out of her meds, like, so if it was one of those situations, like I just was like, what am I supposed to do? Like I was trying to go back to my room. So I ended up spending the night on the floor in my friend's room, and that was an interesting experience because her roommate was one of the cheerleaders, and she was a nurse, and she was like your very typical like mean blonde girl. And that was just an interesting experience, but it worked out. Luckily I had someone that I could go to and sleep on her floor. And one other thing that I will mention, this was a little bit odd to me, but my roommate showed me that she had, those orange prescription pill bottles that you get, like if you have prescription medication or whatever, they come in these orange plastic bottles with a white cap. So she had one of those in her, like in the closet, like in the wardrobe, whatever. And she took it out and showed it to me, and there was like what looked like a bunch of like sand or something in it. And she was like, "These are my grandpa's ashes in this pill bottle." And I was like, "Oh." In a, I didn't say this, but like in a prescription pill bottle, like I guess whatever works, but it's probably not what I would do. But she was like, "Yeah, so I keep him in here so that I know that he's like watching over me to just prevent me from doing anything like too bad, like with a boy or like whatever." And I was like, I don't really think that worked, to be honest. I don't think it really prevented her from making some pretty poor choices, but the thought was nice, I guess. The thought was nice, but yeah, so he was in the room with us. That was interesting. There also was a time that she gave me a tutorial on how to snort Smarties. I didn't know that was a thing. I did not participate. I didn't know that was even a thing, but apparently, just like how people do that with, actual hard drugs, Smarties. Now, if you're Canadian listening to this, you have a different definition of Smarties, but I think you'd probably call our Smarties Rockets or something similar. Smarties. So you crush them up, and then she was using like, I don't know, a sticky note and like something, I don't know. She did the whole like rolled paper thing, and she like scraped them. So she literally had like lines of crushed Smarties on her desk, and then she was snorting them. Which, first of all, like disgusting. That's disgusting. And why would you want to do that? Apparently it like puts the sugar straight to your bloodstream like more immediately. And I don't know, maybe it's like you get your fix if you're trying to like recover from, I don't know. Listen, I was judging, for sure I was judging, but I have a video. I have a video of it in my camera roll. She gave me a full step-by-step tutorial. So if she knew how to do that, then you know what else she probably knew how to do as well. So yeah, that was interesting. Um, but let's transition a little bit because I just spent like 20 minutes talking about just my roommate that year, but I also had some interesting neighbors. Across the hall from me, there was two guys, and I eventually got to know them a little better because one of them turned out to be in my major. So he was basically one of my classmates. And his roommate, I think, was an education major, maybe, but his roommate had like serious anger issues. And they'd be playing video games or something, and I would just hear his roommate like crashing out so hard, just raging. One time I came back to my room and I just stood in the hall for a couple of seconds, like, what is happening? He was crashing out. He was throwing things, hitting things, like, because I guess something had happened and it might affect like his trajectory at the school and stuff because of like a mistake he made while student teaching or something. I don't know. I like from what I could gather from what the friend group was talking about later, but it was like actually terrifying. I was like, is everything okay in there? Because he was destroying stuff. But he did put on really good shower concerts. And by really good, I don't mean like beautiful singing in tune. I just mean entertaining shower concerts. There was one time that he was singing Dream On by Aerosmith. And he really hit that high-pitched falsetto, he really hit that. So it was entertaining. There was also another guy on my floor that would always sing in the shower. And this guy too, I wish I could name drop so that the people that know him know who I'm talking about. I don't really know if there's any way to even give a hint. His name started with an I, but I don't. That's all I'll say. But I also had neighbors on my side that I guess the room on the other side of my wall and then the room across the hall from them. I think it was like the people, because I was on a co-ed floor that year. I think it was like the people in those rooms were like dating each other or really good friends or something. They were always in and out, in and out, in and out, like back and forth across the hall to each other's rooms. And they would slam the doors. They did not try at all to close them quietly. And so I would be woken up at all hours of the morning or late at night of just like the slamming doors because it would shake the whole wall too. And like the sound would echo, but it would also shake the whole wall. And this one time, speaking of shaking walls, I was sitting on my bed, leaning against the wall, as one does, right? And all of a sudden, the wall started moving in a very rhythmic way. The wall was literally moving, and my bed was shaking a little bit from it, and I could hear certain sounds on the other side of my wall. Um, And you can probably imagine what was going on. They were having some time together, guy and girl, having some time together on their bed, which was on the other side of my wall. And so therefore I felt it. I literally felt it. Speed up, slow down, like all the things. I'm sure you can imagine what I'm talking about. I did not enjoy being kind of a third, like secondhand participant in that. I was like, this is actually crazy. Like against the wall, like I'm on the other side of this wall. Hello, like can we not do that? Can you, I don't know, take it somewhere else? Like I don't even care. Go to the shower. Like that's better than me having to feel it. Like I'm just trying to sit here and relax, okay? Anyway, sophomore year was really crazy. Somehow I made it through the entire year with that roommate. I really didn't think I was going to. There were lots of times that I was like, oh, I just hated it so much. But again, like we could get along, like personality wise, we could talk and whatever. It's just like our lifestyles were not the same. Not the same at all. Anyway, junior year, I actually had a good roommate. Yay. So the girl that I told you about that I slept on her floor and we met in pep band, we became roommates with each other junior year, my junior year. She was a senior, I was a junior. So, roommate wise, it was great because I never had to really deal with issues like that. I mean, we had like a nicely decorated, like really cozy, clean room, and we had hardwood floors this time, which was nice. Or maybe it wasn't real hardwood, but it was better than concrete tile. And yeah, she put these little like CDs on the windowsill so that certain times of year we would literally be waking up to sunshine and rainbows because the sun would like reflect off them and put rainbows on the ceiling. And also her boyfriend was an RA, residence assistant, I think's what it stands for. And so he would be like on duty certain nights, and basically he was responsible for like a floor of students. And so that also meant that he got his own room. So she actually slept over there a lot. So there were a lot of nights when I had the room to myself anyway. And she also, I mean, she was there in the room a lot more than I was, just because I was so busy, like with my major and everything, that I was just like never in the room. So she was in the room more than I was. But yeah, she sometimes in the evenings or overnights just wouldn't be there because she would be in her boyfriend's room. And also we were on an all girls floor that year, which was so much better than being on a boys floor. I mean, a co-ed floor, because first of all, the bathrooms stayed a lot cleaner. I didn't have to wipe up the seat every single time before using it, which I did without fail on the co-ed floor. So yeah, that was really nice. Our neighbors, though, were kind of interesting. We had a neighbor on my side, across from my wall, that it was a single room, so just like a one person. There's one of those on each floor, and you have to like get special permission or have a special reason to be in one. And this neighbor, she would vacuum every single day, and a lot of days she would vacuum twice a day, and she would be vacuuming for like a long time, and sometimes it literally sounded like she was vacuuming the walls too. Like we my roommate and I had several theories about why. One of our theories was that she had OCD, like severe OCD, in the sense of like needing everything to be like super clean all the time, because maybe that's why she like got the single room, would be medically to like accommodate that. So it's possible. Because why literally you vacuum at 8 a.m. and then she would vacuum again at like midnight, or she would vacuum at the craziest times when it's like, why are you vacuuming right now? Like there would be times when she would vacuum at like 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., and then literally the next morning at like 7:30 or 8, she'd be vacuuming again. It's like, why did you did you make a mess in that amount of time? Like, why do you have to you were sleeping. Like, the room didn't get that dirty unless you have like some really messy hobby. Or our other theory was like, because she would have boys over sometimes, so our other theory had to do with that. But I don't know. She just was constantly vacuuming, and it actually got so annoying because you hear it through the walls, and it's, when it's late at night and you are like, are you seriously vacuuming again? And one time she was vacuuming, and the person on the other side of us was vacuuming, and the person above us was vacuuming. And then the person across the hall from us started vacuuming, and we were like, are we in a simulation right now? Like, what is happening? Why is everyone on all sides of us vacuuming? Like, this is kind of crazy. The other thing is, the people above us were noisy soccer players. And most of the soccer team was recruited from South America, Europe, like other countries. And they were good. But for some reason, they were like always in their room. Like always. It didn't seem to, I was like, do you guys ever have classes or like anything? They were always in their room, because it sounded like they were literally dropping marbles or like bouncing a ball on the floor. They were so noisy from that standpoint. Like, they had some sort of office chair, it must be, that they would just be rolling across the floor. They'd be sitting in their desk chairs and like tipping in them. And again, sounded like they were dropping marbles all the time. And it was so irritating, because it happened constantly. And then sometimes, and actually both times that this happened, my roommate was not there. I was the only one in the room these particular nights when this happened, but I think my guess is that there was a soccer game going on in Europe, or just somewhere like that was a different time zone. And so these guys, because there were other soccer players as well on that floor, like across from them and next to them. And so they would literally be having kind of like a party in the room above us. But I think they were watching soccer because, first of all, they'd be blasting music. You could hear that bumping. They'd be like all walking around, passing a soccer ball around, stomping on the floor, tipping the bed or tipping the chairs. Like, just shuffling around, making so much noise, but they'd also be like talking really loud, and then they'd be cheering every so often, like as if someone got a goal or made a good play, right? They'd be cheering. And this would be like literally at 3 a.m., like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Like I would have a hard time falling asleep or it would wake me up. And it was so annoying. And like at that point, the RA is not on duty anymore. Like they're only on duty until midnight or 1 a.m. So it's not like I can go to them with a noise complaint. So it's either I go up there and resolve it myself, or I submit a tip to security and they come and take care of it. And so the first time I eventually got so fed up with it that I decided to go up there myself. And their door was cracked open and I was like so tired and out of it too. But then they were all like yelling in Spanish and it kind of like intimidated me for a second because I was so tired. I was like, actually, I don't think I want to deal with this because I don't want them to be mad at me for like shutting their party down, you know? So I went back downstairs and submitted a noise complaint to security. But even by the time security finally got there and then like shut the whole thing down, it still took forever for everyone to like settle back down again. And they did this again during finals week, which finals week is supposed to be 24-hour like quiet hours in the dorms, respectful of everyone. They either didn't know or didn't care because this was during finals week. And I remember that it was a day that I had to get up early for something and I was so irritated. I was so upset. But anyways, that was junior year and we're almost done. But buckle in because senior year, I ended up having a room to myself actually. And this was last semester. So I had a room to myself because, well, it didn't work out to room with anyone. Like I wasn't looking to go off campus and get an apartment. And like most of the other girls that I knew, that's what they were doing. And to me, it was way more convenient to be on campus because of my major. And also the fact that I knew I was only going to be there one semester because this semester I'm at home because I just have one online class or well, two online classes to finish up. So yeah, I was like, it's just easier to be in the dorms and have a meal plan. But most everyone else was either a guy or they were off campus at an apartment or like my roommate from last year, she graduated. So a few people that I could have maybe roomed with graduated. So there was just no good option. So I was like, I guess I just have to do a random assignment and hope and pray that it's better than my first random assignment. So I got paired with this girl that I think she was a sophomore. She would have been a sophomore. And so then I had to move in a few days early because I was working welcome weekend as a squad leader. So I was like in charge of a bunch of freshmen, like through a bunch of activities and whatever. So I moved in early. And so I messaged my soon to be roommate and said like, hey, this was like the day before I moved in, said like, hey, are you like bringing a mirror or like, just things like that, just so that we could coordinate. And she was like, oh, sorry, I didn't tell you. I thought you would have gotten an email by now, but I'm actually I'm in the process of unenrolling. So I'm actually not going to be coming to college this year. Like I'm not gonna. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, it still shows you on like my housing portal as my roommate, and I haven't gotten any emails or anything, but yeah, like thanks for letting me know. So yeah, I was like, okay. So does that mean I just have no roommate? And so for the first few weeks I didn't, and then they sent out an email saying they were going to consolidate everyone that didn't have roommates unless you like paid to keep your own room to yourself. And I was like, this is stupid. But at this point, like I've dealt with enough. I want my own room. It's just for another half semester. Like I'm not going to up and move to some different room right now. I don't have the time for that or the energy. So I ended up paying to keep the room to myself. And it was a weird adjustment because having that like second half of the room empty, like for those first few weeks, I couldn't just decorate it because they could stick someone else in there at any time and you had to be ready. And then at that point, I was like, by the time I established that it was going to be just me, it was like not that much left in the semester to where it would have been worth it to go buy a bunch more decorations and all that. So I just kind of left it as is. I put a few things up, but yeah, I got used to it. But yeah, my my neighbor on my side again was the single room, and there was one night when like I heard random cat meowing. It turns out she had a cat, like an emotional support animal, and I eventually discovered that she was actually one of the friends of my roommate that I had the first year. So yeah, that was interesting. And the first set of neighbor girls I had on the other side of me were so loud and chatty in the mornings. But eventually, I don't know what happened to them, but eventually it was some new girl in that room. And this girl, oh, I had beef with this girl because she would blast her music so loud, and there were days literally she would blast it for 6 hours straight, like all day she'd be blasting music. And those walls, if you've ever been in college dorms, like, you know, those walls are not soundproof, and so it carries through the walls. And sometimes you just are trying to do your own thing, or you want some peace and quiet, you don't want someone else's music blasting for hours. And she would also do this at midnight, at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m. It didn't matter. She would be blasting music whenever she felt like it. And it was like, girl, get some headphones or something. Like, please have some respect. Like, during the day, the thing is, there's not really much you can do about it because it's not like it's quiet hours. So you could either go knock on her door and ask her to turn it down, or just, be okay with it. So I really didn't feel like making an enemy of her by actually going to knock on her door. Sometimes I would pound on the wall to try and get her to stop. Didn't always work. But she also she had loud friends, and she was always like dragging furniture across the floor. Like, I swear she rearranged her room so many times. And she decided that she was going to start playing the keyboard one time. This was at like 11 at night. I just hear like keyboard piano sounds. Like, she wasn't very good yet, but it was like carrying through the wall. And I was like, what? Why do we have to have so many noisy hobbies? Like, can we get a quiet hobby? Maybe like knitting. Knitting might be good. Maybe try knitting. But the other thing that happened senior year was, it turns out that the daughter of my kindergarten teacher was at my college. She was like a freshman or a sophomore, and she was on my floor a few doors down from me across the hall. And there was one time that I was coming back to my room, and I get halfway down the hall and it starts to smell like gasoline. And I was like, what is this? What is this? Like, why does it smell like that? And as I got closer to my room, it smelled stronger and stronger. And I was like, this is kind of concerning, actually. And I opened my door and smelled in my room, and it didn't smell like that in my room. And I'm pretty sure I had my window open a little bit too. And I was like, so it's not like it's coming from outside or anything, because it would have been drifting in and my room would have smelled like it. And there was a few other girls in that hallway at the time, like either coming out of their room or coming back to their room. And so we were all like, do you smell that? Like, so we were all trying to figure it out. We were smelling in our own rooms. We were like kind of smelling around trying to figure it out. And we were like, what's happening? And there was some shoes outside the door of my kindergarten teacher's daughter's room. There was like 2 pairs of shoes, and we were like, maybe it's the shoes. Like, is there gas on the shoes? And so one of the girls like went towards them and tried to like sniff towards them, but she didn't want to like pick them up or touch them. So she was like, I don't really think so. So we were like, do we call security and just like let them know? So we did. And so eventually 2 security guys came, and so they started like checking around and checking like the heater and checking like things in the floors above and in the vents. And then eventually, while we're all like standing in the hallway kind of waiting for security to get back, these 2 girls, my kindergarten teacher's daughter and her roommate, come back down the hall, and they're kind of like these giggly, like self-conscious girls that are like wondering like what everyone's doing in the hall. And then at that time, like, security was right behind them, and then turns out that the smell was from those girls' shoes, and they had been at the gas station, and I guess there was like a puddle of gas that they stepped in, and they didn't like they were Crocs. Like, they didn't rinse their Crocs off. They didn't do anything. They just put them out in the hallway to like air out. And it's like, dude, like, put them outside, like, I don't know, under your car or something if you're worried about them getting stolen, but put them outside, or like rinse them off. Hello? Like, you really think that just putting them out in the hall, it smelled so strong like gasoline, and they were like really embarrassed. They like immediately went in their room and shut the door, and then one of them came back out, and security was like, yeah, I probably would like rinse those off if you haven't. So then they like took them to the bathroom. But it was like, ever since then, their nickname for some of us was Gasoline Girl, because we didn't know her actual name. So it was like Gasoline Girl, not to her face, but Gasoline Girl, because it was just funny. Like, what did you think was going to happen? They were embarrassed that they were the cause for this whole like check in with security thing because of literally their own shoes that they just put in the hallway. But hey, you can never be too safe, right? Anyway, I've been talking for long enough, but I'm going to talk for just a few more minutes because I have some miscellaneous stories, such as fire alarms. Yes, fire alarms. If you've ever been in the college dorms, you understand the struggle of being in there when the fire alarm goes off. Luckily, I managed to go all 2.5 years without being in the shower when it went off. I know people that were, but I was always like paranoid that was going to happen to me. But there was, I think the first one that I was actually in there and part of that like wasn't just the rehearsal drill that they do once a year was in the middle of the night in the dead of winter, my sophomore year. Um, and it's so disorienting when you get woken up from your sleep like that. But it was freezing cold, and so I like grabbed my boots, grabbed my jacket, went out to the car, but my car does this thing where when it's just sitting there idling, like the heat doesn't start being heat sometimes until you actually start driving, and then it immediately is like turns to warm air. So it was doing that thing. So I couldn't drive it anywhere because of course like the fire truck's behind me, like I can't go anywhere. So I'm just sitting in this car that's freezing cold and just blasting air, but not hot air. And it was miserable. And also, this was like early morning too. So I only could get like another hour or two of sleep before I had to get up for a class anyway. So it was really irritating. But yeah, I never had much luck taking naps either because I swear, and you'll see why this is how this ties in a second, but something always happened like exactly halfway through my nap. And I was not someone that would take naps often. I only tried to take a nap if I desperately needed it. Like if I was like, I literally cannot function unless I lay down. So I would try and like lay down for an hour. But most of the time I didn't have time for that. Like I usually did not have time for a nap. So you knew it was like I really needed it when I was actually taking it. But I never was very successful because what would happen is I would try and take a nap and then it would take me 20-25 minutes to even like start actually falling asleep. And then at that point, my nap is only like I'm already 30 minutes into the hour, right? And then like a few minutes after that, when I would finally have like just gotten to sleep, my roommate would come back and that would wake me up. Or maintenance, or not maintenance, but like housekeeping would start vacuuming the hallway and that would be really loud right outside the door and that would wake me up. Or the fire alarm would go off. That happened to me at least once, but I want to say twice. Like during a nap that the fire alarm would go off exactly halfway through and oh, I was so grumpy. So grumpy because if you are so like miserable that you're like I need a nap to function and then you finally fall asleep and you're about to have like 20 minutes of sleep and then but instead the fire alarm goes off and then at that point by the time you're able to go back into the room your nap time is over anyways and you have to go. It's so upsetting. It's so upsetting. And there were occasional times where like there would be like a week where it would go off multiple times that week in our dorm. Or there was one time this past semester where it went off twice in one day, which was ridiculous. Actually, no, I want to say it was 3 times. It was 3 times in one day, but one of them I wasn't actually in there for. But 3 times in one day, and the poor fire department that has to come regardless, like that's so irritating. Like so irritating. But yeah, especially if you're trying to get ready in the morning and it goes off, it's like, who has time for that? Because you have to leave, but if you're not fully ready yet or don't have your stuff, you still have to go back in. And then if you're trying to get to class or something, like that's ridiculous. So yeah, fire alarms didn't exactly help my nap situation. There was also one time when we in the bathrooms on our floor, this was on the all girls floor, we went over a week without soap. And that was ridiculous to me because I went and checked and on the other floors they had soap. So it wasn't like they just ran out of soap. They just weren't refilling it on our floor. And the thing is they have a checklist on the back of the door of like their cleaning tasks and they would check off like that they checked how much soap was left, but then they would just put a line through the refilled soap option. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like all 4 bathrooms on our floor had no soap for over a week straight. It was so frustrating. I don't know what we were doing there, but anyways, the last thing I'll say is this past semester, we've had a very cold winter. It's been, one of the coldest in quite a while. I live in Maine, for those of you that don't know, and I go to college in Maine. But yeah, very, very cold winter. And we lost heat and hot water for an entire day and overnight. Yeah, so we lost it in the morning, and then I wasn't really in the dorms that day, but yeah, that night, still didn't have heat back, and they were trying all day to figure it out, and they had to get other companies to come in and like people from the city, and they were digging around and like trying to find where certain things were so they could try and fix that. And so it was a whole dilemma, but they were advising people to like, if you had anywhere else to sleep, like don't spend the night in the dorms. It's going to be too cold. Like if you know anyone off campus, like stay with them. Or, they were all the people that had like available beds or whatever in the other dorms. They were making them open up their rooms to like people sleeping there. And I had a few other people that I could have gone to sleep with, but I decided to tough it out, and I ended up being okay. But it was cold, but I mean, I like really bundled up and I was fine. But that same night in another one of the dorm buildings, the basement flooded from the boiler room, like something in the boiler room that provided heat to like all the dorms, flooded. Literally like at the same time that they're trying to figure out all this stuff with the heat and water in our dorm. And it was just a crazy night on campus. Meanwhile, it was like probably in the negatives outside. Like it was really cold. So it was quite the excitement. But anyway, I have definitely more stories I could probably share. But in the interest of time, I hope you guys were entertained. I'll cut myself off here. But yeah, my experience in the dorms, I shared mostly like the kind of crazy or not so good stories, but I mean, I also did just really enjoy, especially this past semester and then this past year before that. I really enjoyed having like a nice cozy room, my own space. Like it was really nice in a lot of ways, and it was very convenient. So it's not to say that it was all bad. I'm just, sharing the entertaining stories, and most of the entertaining stories are the not so great ones. But yeah, so anyway, I do miss being on campus this semester. I do feel like I'm so much less involved, and I don't know, I just miss it in a lot of ways, but it is nice to be home at the same time. So if you guys have any crazy stories of your own that you want to share, feel free to leave them in the comments. Whether you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, maybe if enough people comment that, then at some point I could read some of your comments in a different episode, but we'll see. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, comment below if you've had any dorm experiences, and make sure and stay tuned for next episode, because next episode is again a very exciting one. I should have a guest on next episode if all goes to plan, so stay tuned. But I hope you guys are having a great day, a great week. I hope you have a great weekend whenever you're listening to this. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.